Welcome back. We have Jason Wilkes, head football coach at Willow Spring High School. Coach Wilkes, I guess this is year 4 of varsity football at Willow Spring. Last year did make the playoffs, so that was a nice step in the right direction. Finished 3-8 with the loss to Gibbons in the first round. What was it like just kind of breaking through into the playoffs last year, and then how's that kind of led into the offseason?
Yeah, well, it was an exciting time for us last year. We kind of finished strong throughout the year. We were in a super tough conference and played a lot of tough games, and we were able to win that last one against Fuquay, which was huge just in the community with the big rivalry starting between our two schools. And that was kind of like a pseudo playoff game because I think they were the first team out. So we were able to get into the playoffs by getting that win. And that was a big step for us. We want to obviously compete for championships, and to be able to win some hardware that last game of the season and get into the postseason and get a taste of what that looks like was huge for our guys. And I think that really motivated our program going into this offseason.
So this year's team returns, I think, 10 starters on offense. Let's just start with these guys. Let's go through these guys that are going back. Who are some names that people need to know about?
Yeah, we've got a ton of veterans coming back, which is not used to saying that around here because we've been young for so long. But we've got a lot of guys that have a ton of experience playing on Friday nights. And I think it starts up front with Cam Toney, who's been a multi-time all-conference player for us up there. He sets the tone for us. He's super physical player up front. So he's going to lead the charge for us on the offensive line. So we're excited about that. And the majority of those guys up front have a ton of experience and started games. And, Dylan Brett Schneider, Ethan Webb, Jackson Altman. We've got some guys that have a lot of experience up front. So we're excited about that group. And on the perimeter, we've got some dynamic receivers with Eddie Mann, Grayson Mosley, JT Longmire, JaVale Smith. At tight end, Drew Bergen, he's done some phenomenal things for us, and he's going into his senior year. He'll be a 4-year starter for us, kind of like Cam Toney, and ton of experience there. And I'm excited about Ethan Dykes. He's just been so awesome for our program. He's had to play varsity football in some form or another since he was a freshman. So he's seen a lot of competition and a lot of good teams, and his leadership continues to grow. So we're super excited about him leading the charge for us at the quarterback position. And then running back wise, we got some guys coming back. Bryson Davis is a kid that's had a lot of experience on JV for us, and he's a dynamic player with the ball. So we're excited to see what he can do for us in the backfield this year. And Gavin Glass, who carried some of that workload in the backfield last year, is going to do some big things for us too. So we're excited about that group.
Any kind of wrinkles to the offense this year? Any kind of new things you're trying to do?
I think we're just trying to expand and continue to grow. Like I said, we've got a lot of guys that have been in our system for multi-years now. And so the unique thing is it's more of fine-tuning things with these guys now because they're used to us, they're used to the system, and they're also used to each other. And their bond and chemistry together continues to grow. So we're excited to see them take a step there as well too.
Good. Let's flip it over to defense. So we have 6 guys back on that side of the ball. Same thing that side.
Yeah. So I think the strength of our defense is again, we've got a lot of veteran guys that have played a lot of snaps for us, but the back end on the secondary, we've got some guys that have done some big things for us and some guys stepping up. But you start on the back end at safety. Kwame Ritter's been our free safety for us, and going into his senior year, he's a big, long kid, phenomenal ball skills, physical player. Adric Spivey is a dynamic player at safety for us too, so we're going to rely on him a lot. He had, I think, 3 interceptions for us last season, so we're looking for a big season out of him. Caleb Costin played corner for us last year, and he's had a phenomenal offseason. We're excited to see him continue to do big things at playing corner for us. Blondin Diop played JV for us the past couple of years and is making his way up to play on Friday nights. And he's a long kid that has a ton of ball skills on the perimeter. So we're excited to see him step up at corner. Linebacker-wise, we lost 2 really good linebackers for us this past season, but we got some young guys that have some experience and some size and physicality, looking for big things out of them, like Mason Pomanik, Eric Hernandez, Tyler Hodges. Those guys are in the mix there. At nickel, we have Gavin Glass, who also plays some offense too, but he stepped up in a huge role there for us going into this year. So excited to see him there. And up front, Beckett Smith has done some great things for us on the edge, and Jaden Green in the interior has a ton of experience there. He's a big, strong, physical kid. Jackson Stewart has a lot of experience playing up front for us, and we've got a few young guys, as far as the interior goes, that are going to step up. But we're that group. We're super excited about these kids.
What's been the biggest theme of the defense this offseason? What's the one thing, when you went back and watched last year that you kind of really wanted to zero in on this year?
I think the biggest thing for them is, not giving up the big play. And they played some phenomenal games last season, but that's been a big focus for us. We let a couple of games get away from us where we were playing lights out the entire night, but, in the second half, we give up one big play, and that drastically changes the game. So if we can just be a little more consistent and eliminate the big play, we're going to put ourselves in a much better position throughout the season.
Good. Specialist-wise, I think you have some of these guys back. Just kind of go through all these guys: kicker, punter, long snapper, holder, returner, all these guys.
Yeah, they're a really great group here. We've been really blessed at Willow Spring High School to have just kind of like a pipeline of specialists come through here. In my previous years at the high school level, it's hit or miss. You may have some really good specialists, or there may be some years where you kind of piece it together. What is created within our specialist group is like true competition. I think that's made each of them even better than what they already are. And I'll start with our kickers and punters. We've got Moses Barker coming up. He's going to be handling our kickoffs and field goals. He's got a big-time leg, dynamic for us. He can put the ball in the end zone on kickoffs, and he's got great range, and he's gotten so much better going into this season, so we're excited about him there. Sebastian Gonzalez, who's punted for us the last couple seasons. He was actually the co-conference player of the year 2 years ago. So he's got a ton of experience punting for us. Drew Bergen, who's also our tight end, is a phenomenal long snapper for us, and he does a great job with that. And Ethan Dykes handles our holding duties for us. And he's just a dynamic piece back there, just to know that hit the ball's in his hands ultimately. So we got a lot of trust in that unit.
Good. So last year, there was this 3-game stretch where you had lost 3 games in a row just by 1 score. I was wondering if, looking back at that, if you found a commonality in those games that you can address in this offseason.
Yeah, again, I think it goes back to, just being more consistent, and that's been our biggest focus. Giving up big plays or, not converting when we needed to in those moments, just knowing we're right there on the edge of completely flipping a game over in our favor. I think that's been the biggest thing, and I think our guys have really understood that how close they were in a lot of those games and how that could have drastically changed the outcome of our season and made it even better than what it was. So that's really motivated us. I think our focus has been off the charts this offseason. The commitment, the buy-in, and just that overall hunger of knowing, how close we were to, really blowing some games up and in our favor. So that's been the biggest focus for us.
Tell me about your staff. Who are all these guys as they're helping you out?
Yeah, so we've been able to keep our staff for the most part in place and keep it pretty consistent with everybody's coming back. Mike Macaluso is our defensive coordinator. Does a phenomenal job there. He's a young rising star in the coaching ranks. Going to be a head coach one day. I firmly believe that. So he does a great job leading those guys. Leroy Hegge's returning as our defensive line coach. Coach Eddie Williams was our running backs coach. He's moving over to work with our defensive line as well too. We just added Brian Mann, who's joining us. He was previously at Cary. He took over as our men's lacrosse coach this past season. So he's going to be working with our linebackers. In the secondary, Coach Macaluso works with those guys, as well as Will Giles, who's been with us from the start. So that's our defensive group. And then offensively, starting up front, Brian Leckenby, he's our offensive line coach, run game coordinator. Brandon Poteet, quarterbacks coach, associate head coach. He's also our offensive coordinator. Lathan Harris coaches our receivers, and he's our pass game coordinator, does a phenomenal job with the guys on the edge. Just a great group right there. And then Deron Hall is a new addition to our offensive unit. He's going to be coaching our tight ends. He's a former player of mine back whenever I was at Cary, and he's joining us to work with our tight ends. And then Max Josephson, who's also our wrestling coach, he's working with our JV offensive line. So it's a really good group, both offensively and defensively. And I'd be remiss too to leave this guy out of Quinn Dunphy. Like I mentioned, our specialist group. He works with our specialists. He also coaches soccer, and he's a former player of mine as well too. But he was also a multi-sport athlete that played soccer and also was a great kicker and punter in our program previously. So the competition that he drives with those guys is huge. So awesome. Blessed with a really great staff, and actually have another guy, Cody Wilborn, that's joining us too. He's our character coach. So we're trying to hit these guys in all facets of not only football but life too.
Good. I like the sound of that. It's the first I've heard of a character coach. That's a good idea. So one of the big changes this year is the realignment. So it's kind of two-faceted for your program. One thing, you're going up to 8A, but the other thing is with this new conference, a lot of the top teams you were playing in conference are not with you anymore. So your new conferences: Apex Friendship, Green Hope, Green Level, Jordan, Panther Creek. Obviously, Jordan's a pretty good program. Panther Creek has athletes. Green Hope, Green Level still have newer coaches that are kind of turning the program around. Apex Friendship and Apex, they're talented as well. What do you kind of make of this conference?
Well, for me personally, it's a lot of familiar faces of guys that I've coached against previously. For our program here, Friendship, we've had them on the schedule the last few years, non-conference. It's a really good conference that we're going into. Obviously, we're leaving a great conference as well, but this one that we're going into has a lot of tradition, I believe, of some younger programs, but some really quality programs that are tough teams week in and week out that are well coached. Coach Sanders at Friendship, they do a phenomenal job. Coach King and those guys at Jordan, I mean, they've got tons of athletes, and this conference that we're going into is going to be tough week in and week out because, like I said, these guys, they got players, and they're well coached. So it's going to be a challenge. It's just going to be a new challenge for us.
I got to tell you, this is one of the ones where I can't quite I don't have a strong feeling of what the order is going to be, the final standings. So I'm fascinated to see how this one shakes out this fall. Before we go here, tell me about your non-conference. Who do you have in non-conference?
Yeah, so got a really good non-conference schedule, some really good opponents to get us going before we get into conference play. We're starting off playing Triton. Excited about that. We'll play them at home to open up the season. Then week 2, we're hosting Middle Creek. That'll be a big game for us in the community because they're not too far from us. So excited about that challenge. Week 3, we go on the road to Cary. So that'll be a unique experience to go there and play those guys. And then week 4, we've got the big game against Fuquay. So that'll round out our non-conference schedule. That'll be on the road. Okay. So we'll kind of keep that tradition going of playing them, even though we're no longer in the same conference.
Good. Makes perfect sense. Good for the gate. That one is.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Coach, I appreciate your time today. Thanks for coming on here and sharing about your team and your coaches and your schedule. Looking forward to the season. Only a couple more months to go, and then we'll be there. So I appreciate you taking the time out of your day today.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.